Well, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, like most, has been an eventful one, and there's plenty to talk about as a result, so here we are. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post either on the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out about 65% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing comes to us from Tingus Pingus, and he says that if Lonzo Ball gets traded to a contender, then that contender will become a favorite to win it all. So I realize this take is relatively vague because of no team actually being specified, but the reason I chose it is more so to discuss Lonzo Ball himself and the trade rumors he's found himself in lately. Rumors have been floating that Lonzo isn't happy in New Orleans, and then to follow up those rumors, even more followed suit, saying that the Los Angeles Clippers would potentially pursue trading for him before the deadline, so he's been in the news quite a bit. Lonzo Ball may not have lived up to the enormous hype that surrounded him at the time of the draft, but the fact of the matter is that he's still a really damn good player that would fit perfectly into any team's rotation, especially contenders looking for glue guys that give you a little bit of everything on both ends of the floor and play selfless basketball. Lonzo's defense, playmaking, and red-hot shooting as of late make him an incredibly valuable player for teams in need of a point guard, and two teams that come to mind for me that should try to trade for him before the deadline is the Clippers, as mentioned before, and the Philadelphia 76ers, who are still looking for another point guard that they can rely on to ease up Ben Simmons' playmaking load. If either of those two teams do get Lonzo Ball in a trade, then honestly I agree with the original take at hand, because he would help drastically improve both of those teams and address key areas of weakness. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Eduardo, and he says that Karl-Anthony Towns is the definition of a losing player with empty stats. Now, this one is pretty aggressive and negative, and before I go into why I disagree with it, I will admit that I can see where he comes from and why people would possibly think this way. Since Towns has come into the league, he's been one of the most productive, versatile, and impressive big men in the league, putting up huge numbers on a nightly basis and getting better and better with each passing season. But at the same time, his teams have been at the bottom of the standings pretty much every year as well. Outside of the one season that Jimmy Butler was in Minnesota, where they squeaked into the playoffs as an 8 seed, which isn't even that much of an accomplishment, they've been one of the worst teams in the league for the rest of the time. Now, naturally, you would reasonably look at the best player on the team and ask why he can't get more out of his team and can't lead them to anything meaningful, but you have to look at the entire situation objectively and take every bit of context into consideration. Almost every year Towns has been there, his best teammate had been Andrew Wiggins, and not even the version of Andrew Wiggins that we're seeing now on the Warriors that plays defense. The Wolves as an organization have failed to build a team with even close to enough talent to have real aspirations for a playoff push, and this year, when they finally started to add some talent like D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Anthony Edwards, amongst others, the team got plagued by injuries, with Towns himself and D'Angelo Russell missing a ton of time so far this year, and they have barely even played with each other at all yet. I definitely agree that if Towns wants to be in the conversation with the other great big men in the league, he needs to accomplish more. But at the same time, I don't think you can just call him a losing player, because if anything, he's been one of the unluckiest players in the league for a long time, stuck in a terrible situation. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Nicola, and he says that James Harden is being overlooked in the MVP race, and that if the Nets end up being the 1 seed in the East, then there really isn't a player more deserving of the award. The MVP race has been incredibly interesting this year, even more so than in years past, because of the fact that it's so wide open, with arguably more players deserving of being in the conversation than we've had in quite a while. Players like Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, amongst others, have all been popular names for this topic, but Harden, who is a former winner of the award himself and is still playing unbelievably well right now, hasn't been talked about nearly enough. Before Embiid suffered his knee injury that is holding him out of a few weeks, he was the clear frontrunner, but with him now missing time, the Nets have caught the Sixers in the Eastern Conference standings, and Harden has been the one leading the way for them. Harden's fully embraced the point guard role, and his playmaking has been truly elite in every way. He masterfully picks and chooses when to attack himself and when to set those up around him for easy looks, and since his arrival, the team has been rolling. The Nets have won 14 of their last 15 games, and in that stretch, Kevin Durant has not played a single game because he's out with an injury, so they're arguably the hottest team in the whole league without one of their best players, and again, Harden is at the center of this success. The MVP award has historically gone to the player putting up elite production on one of the best teams in the league, and if the Nets stay at the top of the Eastern Conference, Harden deserves a real chance to win it this year for sure. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Brian, and he says that Torrey Craig is a bigger pickup for the Suns than PJ Tucker was for the Bucks this week. What makes this take even more interesting is the fact that Craig was originally on the Bucks, so essentially he's saying here that the Bucks chose to downgrade when they went out and got PJ Tucker in a trade. Did they? Well, no, I don't believe they did. PJ Tucker has been the perfect glue guy, he's been the heart of the team, and he's been one of the best role players in the league for the last few years on the Rockets, and his versatility as a smaller player capable of taking on big men and spacing the floor with his shooting was very important for the Rockets. There's definitely a good reason that the Bucks went out and acquired him, as they have championship aspirations, but at the same time we do have to be realistic about what he is at this point in time. Tucker is 35 years old, about to turn 36 this year, and the energy and hustle that he plays with, along with his ability to battle bigger guys on defense and space the floor on offense, are without question fading and slowing down a little bit. He's not really having a very good year at all so far this season, but it can be argued that he wasn't trying very hard because he was unhappy with the situation he was in Houston. I think he'll be a valuable piece for the Bucks bench and can maybe give them better small ball lineups in meaningful minutes, but they shouldn't be expecting an absolute game changer of a player either. As for the Suns, just because I sided with Tucker here doesn't mean I think Torrey Craig is a bad player by any means. Craig struggled with the Bucks in his short term there, but he will bring good wing defense to the depth of the Suns team that he's going to, and has proven that he can step up in big moments in the playoffs, like he did when he was with the Nuggets, and experience like that will be helpful for a Suns team looking to make a playoff run for the first time since Steve Nash was leading the way for them. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.